Hi, and welcome to episode 38 of the Breaking Bio podcast. I'm Morgan Jackson. I'm a PhD student at the University of Guelph in Ontario, Canada. We've got an exciting guest that is probably going to be a pretty hilarious podcast if the pre-show was anything. So we'll get into that. But first, we'll introduce our other co-host for this week.
My name is Heidi Smith. I'm a postdoc at the University of Texas at Austin.
I'm Tom Housley. I'm a PhD student at the University of Stirling in Scotland.
And our special guest this week is Benjamin Wegener, who's a recently graduated PhD student from Monash University in Melbourne, Australia. So, Ben, you want to say a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I should probably qualify it by saying I'm not yet graduated. I'm still waiting, so I shouldn't really say I'm a doctor as yet, but it's getting there.
Closer than me, so it's all good.
Yeah, don't offend anybody who might, take it on and fail me. No, I'm just completed, handed in sort of at the end of May, working on squid reproductive behaviours, looking mostly at male reproductive strategies, local squid species down in Australia. So yeah, so it's all done now, thank goodness. Not that it was bad. No, no, I've always said, like, with a PhD, it's funny. I'd actually would have loved to have done that. Like, it's a great. I found it was a perfect sort of job for me, but I just needed money, man. They treat you like slaves. I just need cash. Give me some cash money. So yeah.
Yeah, money's good. Money's good. So, so you're working on squid. From what I could gather from the news release that Heidi passed along to us, you were working on some pretty kinky squid sex.
Yeah, getting down and dirty. So I wasn't really. No one really knows a lot about squid reproductive behaviour in terms of investment strategies or even the reasons that they choose to mate with certain individuals. And that's usually just, I think the main reason is because they're really hard to keep in captivity. And so we kind of were quite lucky. We found this little squid. It's only about, it's funny. It's only about 3 or 4 centimeters long. I was getting interviewed for a podcast in, I think it was Scientific American when it came out. And she asked me, so how big is it? And it was this sort of time of day, like it was, early in the morning. I was like, oh yeah, it's about, 4 or 5 inches. And this thing got published all over the place, and people kept quoting it because it was like Scientific American, like, fuck, this squid is not 4 or 5 inches. I probably shouldn't swear, should I? Anyway, yeah. So
if there's a place to do it, it's here. So yeah.
It's here. Cool. All right. So sorry, kiddies. So it's a small animal, but so it was really good to keep in the lab. And we had a really cool facility where it was flow-through seawater system, where they bring fresh seawater in, pump it straight through and straight out, so there's no sort of build-up of waste or anything. So yeah, we were able to do these cool lab studies looking at how the male invests his spermatophore packages into the females and what the females do. And it turns out the females eat them a lot of the time, which has never been seen at all in any cephalopod. So that was a really cool, and that was kind of the kinky spin and stuff that everybody sort of latched onto. It was like, yeah, sperm is good for you. And it just went, it kind of blew up because of that. Blew up, yeah.
So when we first talked about this, like a long time ago, I was always like, oh, this is going to blow up. Like, popular press will take this and run with it. And I'm not sure. Yeah. I mean, sometimes
yeah, so I should
don't.
Say. So yeah. Heidi wants credit for this. So Heidi.
No, I don't. I totally don't. I just meant, a lot of times people don't believe me at first.
I think it's your face.
Yeah, I think so as well. But did you think? I didn't think it would blow up this much, and I didn't think this many people would get so many parts of the story wrong.
Yeah. I think, well, I mean, I don't know. I'm not surprised, because it was just the link that people want to make is a link that they've already got in their head. It's not like it was a new kind of story about ejaculate and because we looked at people do that sort of thing, is it nutritious for you, blah, 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 and that sort of question's been asked before. And so as soon as a study came out where it was shown, nutritional benefits, it was kind of, I wasn't surprised. I was just like, oh, bam, look, it's the way it is.
Yeah, I think the guy who wrote this food cookbook, right? There's this cookbook on like Amazon or something. That dude was like, yes.
I knew it.
I've got a new market, squid.
It's funny you say that. My sister, because she's a stay-at-home mum. She's married an investment banker, and so she just sits there, drinks white wine at 10 a.m. Watches Desperate Housewives or whatever.
Your sister's gonna beat your ass.
Anyway, so she saw it, like, because she saw the video. She was like, oh my god! So she got together with her mother's group, who are all wealthy, hoity-toity people, and she's like, we've got to latch onto this. And so they're seriously looking at making a beauty product and using my name with squid sperm. And apparently you can do it. You can just bring in a product from anywhere, just throw an ingredient in it, and a factory will make it for you, and then it's yours. So it's going to be Dr. Ben's squid sperm facial.
I mean,
Well, maybe it had to be a facial, didn't it?
Yeah.
Right.
Apparently they use Starling droppings or something. Like she's had a beautician rub bird shit on her face and say it's good. So, and it costs money.
Yeah. I mean, if you're gonna have your name attached to something, why not squid sperm
Why not?
face cream?
Exactly. So yeah. Anyway, that's kind of the consequences of it, I guess. But it's happening. We'll see. It was a cool project.
Who says basic research doesn't pay off? That's all I can see.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. And when you did that, you probably didn't see the applied stuff of it. It's hard to see the applications at first.
Yeah.
Tom.
I don't know if I
Tom,
want to see the applications.
As a side note, Tom, you think nuptial gift breath fresheners will be in the future?
They're too small. Feel like a little Tic Tac.
Oh no.
Beautiful. Yeah.
I still whenever I see the females eating one of these nuptial gifts, and there's a bunch of times where I've taken them out of the males, so I just kind of looking at it like, should I? I've not quite got to it yet, but one day.
Oh.
You're just collecting them up to make a big one.
Yeah, well, I feel like you're only going to taste it if you really mash a few together. But anyway, we should get back to Ben and his squid. So did you ever take the squid's chromatophores and rub them on your face, or?
I thought about it. I did think about it. No, mine are, they're friggin' tiny. They're probably only about 1 to 2 mil long. So they're kind of in a banana-shaped spring-loaded mechanism, and they evert literally like a banana peel. They open up, and then they form this little balloon-like structure, which is just essentially a ball with a cement body on it, which sticks to the female. And when they evert, they're so small. They're like, a millimeter in diameter at the most. And so he'll have to pass. He usually passes quite a few to the female, depending on how recently he's mated before. But if he's a virgin male and hasn't mated at all, he'll pass 20 to 30 to her. And I think the reason he passes so many is because she eats quite a few of them. And when she's the smallest ones, or the least heavy females, they actually eat the most. And so it's in the male's interest, probably, to mate with the largest females. And that kind of brought out this, because I gave this result as a seminar in a conference in Indiana, Bloomington. It was the ABS conference. And so Heidi was there, and this guy Steve was there, and my talk finished. It went really well. And Steve was like, oh man, you should have called your talk, fat chicks don't swallow, because it was just exactly the punchline. And I was like, oh man, I really wanted to use it, but I've kind of thought it would probably hurt my professional reputation just to have that sort of title for my talk. But yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I honestly don't know where we're going to go with this episode, so...
Yeah, I mean... Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Wow.
amazing.
The only way is up. Yeah.
I would also say, at that talk, someone tweeted your talk. It was just when I started using Twitter. And you're like, Twitter, who's tweeting this stuff? And I was like, somebody tweeted your talk, and you thought it was awesome.
Yeah.
But you never said using. You're like, yeah, skinny chick swallow. All right.
Oh no.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it raises the interesting question. If the males are selectively choosing, we're trying to get back on the rails here, but I don't know how long it's going to last.
Okay.
If the males are selectively choosing the biggest females because they're not going to nom their gifts, is there any reason, or do you think there's any reason why we haven't seen, like a runaway sexual selection where females are just getting giant squid-sized? So, because you've got the males, selectively choosing the females apparently because they're less likely to nom on the bits. Have you seen any evidence of runaway selection or anything like that where females are getting bigger, or the potential for, small females to mate less often, or the males pretty much, if they go for the bigger females, but they'll mate with anything that swims by?
Yeah, there's definitely size assortative mating. So males will vary in size, and so they're interested in females that are relatively larger than them. And so you do find all the females are generally larger than the males, and it would be in their interest to be, because when you if a male encounters a female that's around about his size, he'll often just ignore her, or he will show a specific lower preference for her, I guess you'd say. But in terms of a runaway selection for larger and larger females, there's definitely a cap on how big they want to get, and I think that's.
You were saying there was a cap on size.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So So where was I? So I think the main reason for there being a cap on the size of individuals is the sperm storage area of the female, the buccal cavity. If it gets too large, males actually find it quite difficult to handle, and females can almost manhandle the male if he's too small. And so the male will, I'm trying to keep this PG. The male will.
Why start now?
Evolved essentially. Yeah, exactly. All the males, although they vary in size, the size of their spermatophores are all around about the same. So there's definitely a selective pressure for the spermatophores to maintain a specific size so as to avoid consumption by the female. And so if the female's too large, males generally just find it quite difficult to get around or manipulate her in the way that he needs to in terms of positioning in order to place the spermatophores. They do definitely prefer larger ones, but I've found a couple of instances, I think quite rarely they'll live through another season. It hardly happens at all. They're usually just a 10-month, 11-month species. But I've had a couple brought into the lab which were enormous females. They were about... So if a female grows to about 5 or 6 centimeters in length, these were around about 15 centimeters. They were really big. I don't know how they got so large. I'm assuming they probably lived through into the next season. And so I put males in with her, and they had no idea what to do. Like they grab her at just random places and then just bounce off because they was like, shit, this isn't working. And so because when squid mate, they quite a few species, it's really under the male control once he grabs her, and so she kind of surrenders to it, and then later on we'll get rid of the sperm or use the sperm. And so these females were so big that the male would grab her and he couldn't even move her because she was just so heavy, and so then he'd just give up. So females wouldn't. It seems like in that regard, females wouldn't want to get too big because unless the male's also following that size, then it's just not going to work for her.
So how often do they encounter each other in the wild? Do you know? I mean, I'm surprised that males would pass up the opportunity to just wham a few spermatophores into a smaller one if they found one.
Yeah, yeah. Well, they occur during the breeding season. They occur in really high densities, like around. I'm talking peak seasons in September down here, and looking at around about 3 to 4 squid per square meter. So they're really, really high densities, and they live on the sea floor. They're not living in the water column. And so the reason males would pass it up is because they've only got a limited number of sperm packages, and they take a few days. Like they can produce around about 4 spermatophores per day. And now, in terms of fertilizing a female's eggs, that's probably not enough, especially if she's going to be consuming some of them. And so, some of the work that I've done looked at sperm depletion and what happens to male investment over time when they encounter successive females. And the males will quickly drop down the level of spermatophores that they invest, most likely because they're just running out and they can't give as many as they would in the first time. And so, if they're passing around about 15 to 20 spermatophores per mating, which is the average, they only carry in the lab, they'll carry around about 80 or so. And that's, an unnatural condition in the lab. In the wild, if they're mating, like the wild animals that I've caught in the wild, they'll only have around about 20 to 30 in them at any one time. And so sperm depletion for them is a real risk. It's a real factor that they've always got to accommodate whenever they're making mating decisions. And it does seem to really, really greatly influence what they do and how they do it.
One of the reasons you saw this, is this right? Am I remembering this right? That they're translucent, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So this is one of the ways, like, did you expect to see this, or was this a total shock?
Not at all. Yeah, not at all. So we had no reason to expect it. One of my supervisors had been dissecting one of these guys ages ago, and he'd found, because the sperm storage area is around the female's mouth, when he was dissecting it, he found one that was in the female's beak, but he thought, don't know if this is just because I was dissecting or what happened, and it might have been dislodged. But because they are translucent, you can see all their internal organs, and so we were able to actually, literally the first time I mated them in a tank, you just put a male in and a female in, and the male would just grab her straight away. And you could see the female scraping them off her buccal cavity and swallowing them and actually going down into the stomach. And so that's because sperm storage around the mouth area is actually a fairly common strategy in squid. We expect that it's actually quite common in those species. And there was this Japanese pygmy squid. It was actually quite lucky. They came out with a publication just after we did, so we just kind of beat them to the punch. And they found the same behaviour. So they didn't actually look at it as in depth as we had, which is kind of surprising. Like, I would have thought that they would have done a bit more work on the potential of it, because they've actually known about this species for quite a while. But yeah, so it's definitely something that happens, I reckon, probably quite often. But we just happen to find it because they're translucent. And the video of it's really cool because you actually see the swallowing action actually happening. So yeah, it's kind of irrefutable. Yeah. And I mean, everybody needs a video. Like, I've used the same video for like every talk I've given for the last 3 or 4 years. It's like, here it is again, everybody. But it always gets a good reaction. So yeah.
I mean, if you have a video of squid, that's pretty much your talk. That's all you have to do.
Exactly.
It's the same with like Roger Hanlon's stuff with the cuttlefish.
Yeah, exactly. It was so lucky because Hanlon was at that. Roger Hanlon's the one of, if not the world famous cephalopod expert, and he talked at the ABS conference the day before I did, and so everyone was at Hanlon's talk. It was like standing room only, and they all got this dose of cool cephalopod behavior. And then my talk was the next day, and so I think that was a big draw card because everyone, it was packed, my talk, and I just credit Hanlon for that. It's like, yeah, it's perfect when you've got a big wig talking about something that's cool that you're also talking about. I think it actually helps you.
Yeah, I feel like he doesn't even talk. He just like drops the microphone. Yeah. And leaves his video. Just leaves his videos running.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't have to say much. That's the thing.
Yeah.
They're freaky. They're very cool animals. Yeah. And I mean, that was kind of why, I don't know, it was, I'm not a marine person at all. I really don't like marine biology. But at all. And I get really seasick, so it was like, it was just a really bad idea. But it was a really cool animal to ask really cool questions. And because nothing's been done, you know, like there's so many possibilities with working on these guys. You could, especially because they're so conducive to captivity, that's really, really rare. And you know, they'll reproduce happily. You can raise multiple generations if you got the know-how. And so, you know, there's, you know, dozens, you know, at least a dozen PhDs worth in these animals. They could be a really good model system. Yeah.
That you don't want to work with anymore.
Well, no. I
know.
Like I said, I could easily do this as a job. But I've thought about coming back to Australia once I leave, because go to Brazil and do a postdoc, and come back here and work on them, because I'm the only person that knows really anything about them. And so I'd be able to hit the ground running, and I know I've got, you know, a dozen studies in my head that I'd want to do now that would all be publishable, and you could churn them out really fast. So it's kind of just sitting there as a possibility.
Yeah, part of me hates you. No, I remember like when I was like writing and really miserable with the world, I would get these pictures of like you doing field work, or like pictures of your field station. I'd be like looking at my phone, and I was like, Ben is such a prick. Like, but then, so when you told me that you get really seasick and you don't like it, I'd be like, oh, I hope he's throwing up, and it would make me feel better.
Good.
It would. It definitely make me feel better.
So it's like a coping mechanism. All right.
Yeah, definitely. I did just read that humans and birds are more promiscuous in the tropics.
Oh, really?
Because of parasite load.
You mean separately, though, right?
Yeah. Yes, Tom, I mean separately. That would be funny, though, if it were not separate.
Some hot cloaca action.
Yeah.
That's it.
Do you know Stephen from ISBE?
No, not at all.
No.
Okay, so when we were
Hang on,
first,
Matt, you look familiar, Stephen. You do look familiar, but I don't know if that's because I've watched these episodes before, or if it's because I've actually met you properly. It's hard to know.
If you watched the episodes before and I only looked familiar, then something's gone horribly wrong.
he was at the meeting in Perth.
Were you at Sweden as well, or just Perth?
Yeah, I was at Sweden too.
All right, cool. What do you work on?
Viral evolution right now.
What? Like you go to like you're going to viral evolution, Tom?
No,
I know you.
I know this. I'm sure I've seen. Well, I've seen a viral evolution talk. Maybe.
But like he's in Sydney. He's in Sydney. How do you not hang out with him? Don't you hang out with other Australians at the meeting?
No, not really.
Because whenever I see you guys, there's a crowd of them.
Yeah, but you're not Australian, Stephen. You've got it. Like
No,
you know.
and he's at Monash, so you know, it's not like we're across the road from each other.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Were you at the ASAB conference at all, by any chance?
No.
Okay.
I haven't gone to any animal behavior stuff here. I've been doing genetics, so.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, I don't know if I would have seen you talk then.
Although I know your lab. I mean, I love all the posters that come out of the Wong lab.
Yeah. Bob's he drills us on poster presentations. He's very aesthetically, because Bob's a gay guy, and he's got a lot of fashion ideas, and he's enormous though. He's freaking huge. He's over 7 foot, and so he finds it really hard to find any clothes that fit him. But his apartment's like decked out in artwork and everything. He's really visually oriented in that regard. So he's all about making sure your poster looks good. And he always wins, like the poster competitions.
Your posters are always just pictures of the animal.
I know.
I was like, how Why is there no data on here, but you win every time?
Can you hear the bitterness? Yeah, bitter
It's
shit.
totally good.
Well, hang on a minute. Hang on. Tell me about your poster at ISBE, the freaking A4 papers. Like, yeah, that's a poster.
Oh my god.
let's just print out A4 sheets of paper and stick them up on a wall. That's not a poster.
I didn't want to bring a poster, and all the postdocs in my old lab talked me into like just printing out the like sheets of paper to show all my graphs. And like the rest of my friends will pretend to understand what I do, and Ben won't even ask me. Like, you don't even go to my talks, you don't go to anything.
Oh, fuck
just
off,
like,
whatever. I've
you're
been
just like,
to your
what do you
talks.
work on? It's hurtful.
Can you see them? No, okay.
No.
No, hang on. I've been to your talks. I've been to all your talks. What are you talking about?
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, just throwing lies. Yeah, anyway. Bitch session over.
Yeah, you went to your talk, but then just filed under. Yeah, that was boring.
Yeah, mostly.
Yeah.
So when do you think you're going to go out to Sao Paulo?
Well, as long as all the paperwork goes through, I'm aiming for end of October. So it's only a few months away, which is good. I've actually just moved house, and I'm going to help open a cafe for a couple of months with some friends, and just zone out. But it's annoying. I've just been hit with a whole bunch of things. I've got to give my final PhD seminar in the next couple of weeks. I just got a review back from Animal Behavior, which is a ball breaker, man. Like they're really ethically concerned. Like, did you provide counseling for the squid after the experiment? It's really it's really annoying. And so they've asked me, with all these reviewer comments back, they've asked me for information that is kind of impossible to provide, and so I don't know if it's going to get in, but I've got to address some reviews, and so there's a fair bit of work to do, plus there's a whole bunch of research I want to do before Sao Paulo, so I'm going to be pretty busy, I think, in a good way. It's kind of good. Like, now that the thesis is done, like it's handed in, I feel like any work that I've got to do now, I can kind of enjoy it. It's weird that when the PhD's there, the thesis is this horrible weight that just sits there, and everything you do is kind of, I should be writing, but now it's gone, so it's good. Now the work actually feels like proper work.
So Tom's writing right now. I could see him start to weep when you said that.
Yeah, it's freaking brutal, man. It is freaking brutal.
I just wrote my thesis writing timeline, and I'm already behind, and I only wrote it today.
The fantasy. Yeah. How far in are you? Like, how much progress are you making, do you think?
Well, I've done all my experiments, but I need to do a bunch of like little ridiculous things, like mash up a load of crickets and figure out what was inside them. But yeah, lots of analysis and lots of writing and lots of crying.
Yeah. Yeah, I found it the hardest part, for sure, the writing.
Yeah.
But my writing was also freaking awful. Like, when I started, because I worked for about 3 or 4 years after finishing my degree, and I didn't do any writing in that time. And so it was just, the writing's fun.
Well, I think we're pretty much out of time here, so we'll leave it at that, and we'll have to catch up with you some other time, perhaps, and find out how the frog ecology is going. But
totally. Yeah, absolutely.
I'd like to thank you for coming on today. And is there anywhere, is there some way that people can follow your research as you go off to the wild unknowns, or are you kind of old school?
Yeah, pretty old school. Someone's saying I should organize a web page for myself, but I don't know, it'll happen. But yeah, you can just Google my name and something comes up usually.
All right.
Yeah, pretty much.
There we go. So there you have it.
I gotta go onto Twitter.
There you go. So that pretty much wraps up episode 38 of the Breaking Bio podcast. You can find us online at breakingbio.com or on Twitter at breakingbio. Hope you join us next week when we'll have a new guest who may be a returning guest, actually, but stay tuned for more info. So, thanks, everybody.
Bye.